Hi, and welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video we're going to learn the 2 to 4 player game Land vs. Sea, designed by Jean-Paul Jacques and published by Good Games Publishing, who helped sponsor this video. Whether you're playing as the rolling waters or the ever-expanding landscape, it's a race to see who can dominate as you create one of the most unique maps to spread across your game table. So join me at the table, and let's learn how to play. To set up, place the inside of the game box nearby to act as a score track, and then pick someone randomly to be the land player. Have them add this token to the 0 space as their scoring marker. The other player will be the sea, and they'll use this scoring marker. Each person should also collect one more of these tokens to use later. Land and sea can also have 3 or 4 players, but we'll talk more about that later. There's also some advanced scoring rules you can play with once you've learned the basic game, and we'll discuss those later in the video as well. But for now, we're going to set up and learn the basic 2-player game. The game comes with a variety of tiles, but for now, find the one with this symbol on it known as the starting tile, and this double-sided Volcano Whirlpool tile. The starting tile you'll set in the middle of the play area, putting the Volcano Whirlpool tile off to the side for now. From the rest of the tiles, create 2 shuffled even stacks. All of the tiles are double-sided, and it doesn't matter which sides are face up. But then, starting with the land player, they'll take either one of the top tiles, setting it in front of themselves. When taking a tile, you can only look at the top ones, and during the game, you can never look at the bottom side of a tile until after you've collected it. So once I've picked a tile and taken it, I can then look at its other side anytime I want, but I keep that other side hidden from the other player. And when I'm not holding the tile, I should put it so that its hidden side is face down, but its top side should be visible not only to me, but to everyone else at the table. After the land player has taken a tile, the sea player now collects one from the stacks. Then the land player takes one more, and so does the sea player, so that each of them has 2 tiles. And that's the setup. In Land vs. Sea, players will be playing tiles to create a growing map of land and water masses, scoring points by completing pools of water or islands, with a few extra ways to score points mixed in, as we'll see. The game is played over a series of turns, starting with the land player and then going back and forth. And on your turn, you perform 4 steps, starting with playing a tile. Here, you look at both sides of your tiles, keeping the underside a secret from the other player, picking one to put with either side face up adjacent to at least one of the tiles already on the map. The map is made up of all the tiles that have been played into the center of the table so far. At the beginning of our game, the map is very small, just this one tile. So the first tile that we place must be put against it. A tile's edges will be made up of some combination of land and sea sides, and any sides of the map that your tile touches must match. So I could place this tile here, or like this, but this wouldn't work because now it's land against sea. As this area expands, the next player who adds a tile to the map on a later turn will be able to go adjacent to any of these tiles. But if they end up adjacent to more than one tile, all of the sides that touch it must match. So I could add the tile like this because we have 2 water sides touching. But if I rotated it here, this wouldn't work. I do have sea touching sea on this side, but here it's land and sea. Most times after you play a tile, that step of your turn is over and you'll move on. However, some are known as action tiles and give you a special action to resolve after you place them. There are lots of fun drawings and elements on the various tiles, but the special actions are these 2 symbols specifically. This one is the play again action, and here we have the steal action. When you add a tile with this play again symbol, you play your other tile immediately if you have one, following the normal rules. If you didn't have another tile left, then you would just ignore this symbol. If you add a tile to the map that shows this steal action symbol, then you instead immediately take one of your opponent's tiles. You can only do this if they have 2 tiles. If they're down to just 1 tile, you can't steal their last one. Also, you can't examine the underside of another player's tile you're thinking of stealing. You have to make your choice based on the top of the tiles. And only once you've made your choice and taken one can you examine its underside. If you have both a play again and a steal tile, you could add your play again tile to the map, allowing you to play this stealing tile to then take a tile from your opponent all in one turn. Either way, after you've added a tile to the map, you also check to see if you completed a land or sea area, scoring any related points. A land or sea area is considered completed if it's entirely enclosed and has no open edges of its type. So here we have an open land area and an open sea area. But later in the game, adding this tile here creates an enclosed land area with no openings, so we'd score this. When scoring a completed land area, give the land player 1 point for each tile that contributes to that area. So here the land player earns 1, 2, 3, 4 points. It does not matter who placed the tile that completed this area, the land player will always get those points. However, the person who completed the land area will now count all of these black cross symbols inside that area and score them as points. So if the sea player had added this tile here, the land player gets 4 points for the number of tiles in this land area, but the sea player would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points for the crosses. If the land player had added this tile, they'd get 4 points for the land and then 5 points for the crosses as well. In the same way, when a sea area is completed, the sea player gets 1 point for every tile making up the completed sea area. So here they would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. And whoever completed the sea area would then score for any white crosses within that sea. Either way, anytime a player earns points, you move their marker here the related number of spaces on the scoreboard. Now, if a player would ever score more than 49 points, as they go past, just flip over the score token and keep counting again from the start, but know that they've banked 50 points already. So this player, if they'd looped around, they would now have 56 points. So that's placing and scoring tiles. Now it's time for us to discuss the Volcano Whirlpool tile we had set aside during the setup. Sometimes you'll create a situation where after placing a tile, there'll be a hole that would fit exactly one tile. If that also has the exact same type of edge all the way around, land or sea, land in this case, the player who added the final tile, creating the hole, immediately collects the Volcano Whirlpool tile and sets it into the space with the side matching the edges oriented however they like. And then any scoring would be completed as normal if necessary. In this case, this land area is now complete, so the land player would gain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points, and the person who placed the volcano would earn the 5 points on the volcano tile, plus any other crosses on the completed land tiles. If the empty space was all water edges, the tile would go in with this side up, but otherwise works the same way. There's only one of these Volcano Whirlpool tiles though, so if a hole is created elsewhere in the map later that has matching edges all around, it will just remain empty. So that's how you score in the game. After you've placed a tile, or tiles if you use the play again action, and scored any completed areas from the tiles you just placed, it's time for the place waypoint step. Now this is technically an optional rule. You don't have to play with this in your first game when you're first learning, but I'll explain it now so you know how it works. Each player has one of these waypoint tokens, and after playing a tile and scoring any points from it if possible, if your waypoint token is not already on the map, you may then add it to the map into a space that matches its type, as long as it goes into an area with an open edge. This is the land player's waypoint, so it must be placed on a land feature. So I could set it here, for example, but not here, as this land doesn't have an open side. Once placed, the waypoint will stay on the tile until one of two possible things happen. One possibility is that the area containing the waypoint becomes completed. For example, if this tile was set here, then this land feature is now finished. The other possibility is if the tile containing the waypoint is completely surrounded by 6 other tiles, which it now is. In either of these cases, the waypoint is then returned to its owner, and the person who caused the waypoint to be returned, even if it isn't their token, scores a bonus point. After this optional place a waypoint step of your turn is complete, you move to the Replenish Your Tiles step of a turn. Here you take tiles from either of the 2 stacks until you have 2 of them in front of you. And again, you cannot look at the underside of a tile until after you've taken it. If at any point while playing, there's only 1 stack of tiles left, split the stack to make a second one that's as close as possible to the same size. And that's a full turn, and you're reminded of these steps on the back of the rulebook here. Place a tile, resolve the action on that tile, if any, score any area you might have completed, place your waypoint token if you still have it and want to, and then draw tiles until you have 2 again. Then, the next player takes their turn, and back and forth turns will go like this until the very last tile has been played, both from the piles and also from those in players' hands. You then check the scores, and the player with the most points wins. And if there's a tie, the tied players share the victory. And that's how you play the basic game. But if you'd like to add some extra twist to the scoring, you can play with the mountain and coral scoring option. So let's take a look and see how that works. Some tiles have mountain sections along certain land edges of a tile, and these will show pictured mountains and trees. So on this tile, we have mountains on these 2 edges. Other tiles have coral showing on sea edges, which looks like this. So here we have 3 edges with coral. When playing, if you ever set the edge of a tile so that the mountain edge of one tile is directly adjacent to the mountain edge of another tile, no matter who placed it, the land player gets 1 point per mountain edge that makes up that entire collection of connected mountains. So if the sea player added this tile here, they've just connected the mountains on this tile to the mountains on this tile, and these are also connected to 2 other tiles with mountains, so the land player gains 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Coral works the same way, but the points go to the sea player. So if a person added this tile to the map, they've just connected 1, 2, 3 coral together, and the sea player gains 3 points. And of course, this is in addition to any other points they would normally be owed. That's not the only special scoring rule, though. You can also play with what is known as the caravan and ship scoring. Some tiles have either this caravan symbol on land or this ship sailing in the water. When you place a tile that shows either a caravan or a ship adjacent to one or more tiles that also shows a caravan or ship, you score 2 points. And the 2 symbols don't have to be connected by the land or sea. You can see here this caravan is on the other side of some water and land from this ship, but the 2 tiles are adjacent, so it counts. Also, you only score 2 points even if the tile you place is adjacent to more than one caravan or ship. So putting this ship here puts it adjacent to another ship and a caravan, but this would only score 2 points. But that's not all. At the end of the game, you then check all of the ships and caravans again. At that time, look over the whole map for any 2 or more tiles connected to one another through adjacent ships and caravans. These make up what are known as trade routes. And you can have several separate trade routes around the map. For example, these 5 connected tiles all have ships and caravans on them. Then over here we see 3 more tiles with ships and caravans. So these are 2 separate trade routes. You now check each trade route separately and count how many ships and caravans are in it. If there are more caravans, the land player scores 1 point for all the tiles in that route. If there are more ships, the sea player scores 1 point for each of the tiles. For example, this route here has 1, 2, 3 caravans and 2 ships, so the land player scores 5 extra points. While here we have a trade route with 2 ships and 1 caravan. The 2 ships outnumber the caravan, so the sea player would score 3 points. If there's a tie, no points are scored for that particular route. Now when playing, you can use either the mountain and coral scoring or caravan and ship scoring, or both together. The game comes with helpful player aids to remind you of how each of these methods work. Just be sure to have the side face up, showing your number of players. Speaking of which, you'll find here in the rulebook how the game can also be played as a 3-player game, where one person is the sea, another is the land, and a third is the cartographer. Land and sea score as usual, but the cartographer scores mainly from mountain and coral connections, while contesting bonus points and trade routes with the land and sea players. Likewise, there are 4-player rules that will have players working in teams of 2 land versus 2 sea, using waypoints as ways to indicate priorities to their partners. But these 3- and 4-player rules I'll leave for you to discover on your own. Otherwise, that's everything you need to know to play land versus sea. If you have any questions about anything you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. You'll also find forums for discussion, pictures, other videos, and lots more over on the games page at Board Game Geek, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like, subscribing, and clicking that little bell icon so you get notification anytime we post a new video. And if you'd like to support us directly, you can join our Patreon team, which I'll have linked below. But until next time, thanks for watching.